Welcome back to another episode of Sports Tips by Jellyman, NRL by Jellyman segment, Round 5 review, Round 6 preview, stats, player consistencies, all the rest for the weekend ahead of Rugby League. Cracking straight into it, topic 1, Round 5 preview. Heading back to last Thursday, the Sydney Roosters defeat the Parramatta Eels 28-20. The Roosters dominated this one in all areas of the game. The Eels once again getting a team off a bye, which is unlucky. I think the Eels are still thereabouts this season. They need to sort out their outside backs. They're lacking those defense on the edges, and also that push, from the likes of Cobbo, Simonson, who will be out for a couple of weeks. Blake Pensini has been super good for them. But they just need more consistency from their back four. Gutherson does what he does week to week anyway. The Roosters look fresh, look good. Expect them to continue to score more points in upcoming weeks. As we said, the first 4 rounds, they like to assess where they're at and then build into the season. Obviously, they're all in the market of winning premierships. Friday's game with the Raiders taking the Panthers. It was tight until halftime. Penrith go up 13-6 with a Cleary field goal, and then 53-12 was the final score, and it was just a slog fest for the Penrith Panthers. They just dominated the Raiders and just made light work of them there. There's not too much to touch on other than the Raiders could potentially lose by a similar margin this week to the Brisbane Broncos. Next game that evening was the Storm defeat the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs bogey team is the Melbourne Storm. It is official. 18-12 was the score. The Bunnies seem to be struggling to score. Is probably the best way to put it. The Storm, gritty defensive performance after allowing that big amount of points to the Gold Coast Titans. They then come back with a few good defensive efforts. Munster looks good for them. I'm pretty sure they get Hughes back this week, if not next week. He'll be a big in for them there. Saturday's games were the first game on Saturday. The Sea Eagles drew with the Knights 32-32. The Sea Eagles going to need to learn how to defend. It's as simple as that. They can put scores on, that's fine, but defence is their main worry at the moment. And obviously defence wins premierships. We saw them a couple of years ago go deep into the finals, but it was defence that became their unravelling there. So, if they're wanting to contend towards the back end of the season, they need to shore up that part of their game. The Knights showed a few gritty performances and showed the ability to score without Ponga, which has been good to see of late. Gamble and Hastings are doing a job for them. Middle at the back has been good as well. So we'll see how that builds into the rest of the season for them. They had the team on paper. We've said it week on week last few weeks. They've got the team there on paper. It's just about application and effort for them there. The next game is the Dragons versus Dolphins. The Dolphins are just shot by injury at the moment. So 38-12, that one was. Good to see the Dragons score a few points, but depending on how they'll go against other sides, we'll wait and see. The later game, the Broncos against the Tigers, 46-12. We called it early. The Broncos were going to put a humping on to the West Tigers, and they did do exactly that. The Tigers just lacked effort, lacked defensive grip, lacked pressure, everything else. The couple of tries they scored were average as well, just as we said the other week with that Coruscant try and also that Bateman setup. It was nothing impressive, no shape, no nothing, just sort of happened like that. But the Broncos look super good at the start of the season. Sunday's games, the Warriors against the Sharks. The Sharks were up by a lot, and the Warriors gritty got back into it. Final score was the Warriors winning 32-30. I wasn't sure about that penalty at the end that got the Warriors the win, but nonetheless, it happens. Hines got a chance at it, wasn't able to ice it, put it into overtime. Once again, the Sharkies, very similar to the Sea Eagles. Their defense was something they built on early last year, towards the back end of last year. It's what cost them in the finals, and it's what's really hurting them early on in this season is their defense. So we'll see how that shores up in the upcoming weeks. That's an area they need to improve on. The last game of the round, the Doggies defeat the Cowboys in a Golden Point thriller. Burton kicking the winner, 15-14. The Cowboys do get a couple of players back this week, so they'll improve offensively there. Obviously in the pouring rain as well. It was an interesting matchup, but good for the Doggies to pour out a win. They come back on a 5-day turnaround this week, so they may be beaten by a lot, unfortunately, but we'll see how this week turns out for them. Moving into topic 2, so we've got player and team consistency. So similar to the AFL and the NBA, now that there's a few weeks or a few rounds into the season, we can go into some more consistencies for each side. We'll touch on the first 5 or 6 teams, and then we'll post the rest of them within the show notes. But the Broncos, they've won 3 of their past 4 wins by 12 plus points, 28 plus points in 3 of those 4 games. The Broncos have held teams to 18 points or less in all 5 games as well, so defence is there for them. Staggs, 6 tries in 4 games. Staggs, 1 plus try in all 4 games, in his last 4 games, Cobbo, 1 plus try in his last 3 games. Capewell, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4 games. For the Raiders, 18 points or less in 4 of their 5 games. The Raiders also have allowed 20 plus points in their last 4 games, so do the math there. If they're not scoring 18 plus points and they're allowing 20 plus points, it's going to lead to losses. Jack Wighton, when available, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4 games. Hudson Young, 1 plus try in his last 2. The Bulldogs, they've won 3 of the last 4 games, but as we said, short turnaround this week and playing in the wet last week will hurt them coming into this week. Addo-Carr, 1 plus try in his last 4 games. For the Sharkies, 30 plus points in 3 of their last 4 games. Mulitalo, 6 tries in 4 games. Mulitalo also 1 plus try in his last 4 games. Kennedy, 6 tries in his last 4 games and 1 plus try in his last 4 games as well. The Dolphins, 12 points or less than the last 2 games. As we said, they're shot by injury, and they've allowed 18 plus points in the last 3 games as well. Tabuai has actually scored a try in all 5 games so far for the Dolphins. The Titans, Canberra, 5 tries in his last 3 games and 1 plus try in his last 4. The Sea Eagles, 30 plus points in 3 of the last 4 games, but have allowed 30 plus points in 2 of their last 3 games. Olakau'atu, 4 tries in his last 3 games and 1 plus try in his last 3 games as well. Garrick, 1 plus try in 3 of his last 4. For the Storm, they've actually their last 4 games within 1 to 12, so the last 4 out of 5. Warwick, 1 plus try, and Munster, 1 plus try in their last 2 games there. As we said, we'll post the rest of it in, but jumping into topic 3 here, round 6 preview. So looking at the Storm and the Roosters, Sydney have actually won their last 8 night matches, but Melbourne's last 4 night matches have gone total points under. The Storm's last 4 games, already mentioned it, 1 to 12 out of 5. For this one, it's really 50-50. It is down in Melbourne there for the Storm. So, often the Storm do get up at Amy Park. And yeah, depending on, Hughes comes in there for the Storm. Out is Tedesco, so Mana goes to fullback, Water replacement at fullback. I mean, Sydney Roosters theoretically should win this with the teams on paper, but we'll have to go into it a bit deeper, depending on who's actually healthy and who's coming off the bench, etc., etc. We'll go on that to a bit more for members. Friday's games, the Bulldogs and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. As we mentioned, this is the one where the Bulldogs are coming off a short turnaround, playing that Good Friday game. Obviously, they'll get up for it, but they've got a lot of outs, 3 of their big outs as well. Alex Johnson is out for the Bunnies as well, so Tan Milne comes in on the wing there. The Bunnies should theoretically get a big win and comfortable win there, depending on the weather. I think it's supposed to be actually raining in Sydney as well, so that will all depend on how that looks. South have won their last 4 games against the Bulldogs, and 7 of the Bulldogs' last 8 matches have gone total points under, so looking at the unders of this one with South to win. Canterbury's last 3 games have been decided by 6 points or less as well, so they're within games, and the South have actually failed to cover the line in the last 4 games, so quite a few good stats that point to, Bunnies just winning a close one or the Canterbury Bulldogs plus line, but also total points under, especially if it's raining in Sydney. The next game on the list on a Friday is the North Queensland Cowboys playing the Dolphins at 8 p.m. So quite a few big ins and outs for both sides. Milford obviously out for the Dolphins, but they get in Nikorima and Lee. But, with Drinkwater back as well as Reuben Cotter back for the North Queensland Cowboys, they should get the win up there in NQ on Friday evening. They've won their last 14 of the last 16 games as a favourite. 5 of their last 6 home games have actually gone under as well. And the Cowboys have been struggling to score, but as we said, with Drinkwater back in, I think that'll change. Saturday's game, so the Panthers versus Sea Eagles, good matchup there, but if the Sea Eagles can't hit up defensively, it'll be a big Penrith win. That's essentially how we see that one playing out. The Broncos versus the Raiders, the Broncos should hump them here. They've won their last 6 home games versus the Raiders. And Brisbane versus Canberra, last 6 matchups, they've actually gone total points over. Brisbane's weather looks fine on the Saturday as well, so look for Brisbane to have a big win. Sunday's games, the Titans versus the Dragons. Gold Coast have actually won their last 9 matchups as a home favourite. These sides obviously played off only a couple of weeks ago as well, down there at Kogarah. And St George's last 4 games have gone total points over. So, total points over for the Gold Coast. With the Gold Coast win, looks good. Calm Pereira, a few tries, and potentially Sloan as well, a try for a fullback. The Knights versus the Warriors. This would be an interesting contest, actually. Weird to say. The Warriors have won their last 3 games, and they've won 4 of the last 5, and the last 4 of their last 5 have been 1-12 as well. Newcastle versus New Zealand have always gone under in the last 6 matches. Newcastle's failed to cover the line in 10 of their last 13 matches at home. But Newcastle 20 plus points in their last 3 games. So an interesting matchup there. Wighton is now named on the extended bench. Gamble out. Crossland in for the Knights. They've also named Mann and Hunt. They've named Mann and Hunt. So the Hunt's in the reserves. They've named Mann on the bench at number 14. We like the Warriors in this one, but it will be a tight game. Just depends on who obviously gets up healthy for both sides. And also looking at the weather on that Sunday afternoon fixture. Last game of the round is West Tigers versus Parramatta Eels. We're liking obviously the Eels in this one. The Eels should be able to hump. I say hump, but I mean they should be able to win big in that matchup. The Eels actually get back Sean Lane as well, so that shores up one of those edges. Look for Dill Brown to be feeding Sean Lane. I reckon Sean Lane goes over in this game. Jermaine Hopgood jumps back to number 14, depending on how the Eels use the bench as well. They move Dewey back to 6 and Staines at fullback, so they've shifted things around once again. And Brett Naden comes back into centres for the Tigers there, but we still see a Parramatta Eels win. Best bets for round 6 looks as so. We've got on the weekend, so across the weekend I should say, South winning their last 4 games against the Bulldogs, so them head-to-head. North Queensland winning 14 of the last 16 as favourite. Them head-to-head. Brisbane head-to-head against the Raiders. And then Tigers losing the last 10 matches. Obviously, we're going the Eels. That's $2.57 on Sportsbet. That's one of our best bets for the weekend, for the entire weekend of rugby league. For Thursday night, we've got Munster and Jackson Paulo, a try each. $6.25 on Sportsbet. And then on the Friday's games, Addo-Carr, 1+ try in his last 4 games. Dolphins allowing 18 plus points in the last 3 games, and Tabuai Fido to score. That's $5.50 on Sportsbet. NRL stats for Saturday. Crichton, Olakwatu a try each, along with Staggs also a try, and the Raiders allowing 20 plus points. That's $11.82 on Sportsbet. Sunday's games, Khan, Pereira, Sloan, Dong Young, 1 try apiece. There's a few stats on that one, 6.30. And then Monday's game, Sevo with total points over. That's $2.37 on Sportsbet as well. We'll obviously have those all in TikTok Reels and Instagram, TikToks and Reels on Instagram. So if you miss out or want to have a bit more of a look into it, feel free to like and follow on Instagram and TikTok. But that is all for this week. Feel free to like, follow and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you've got any questions about the weekend ahead of rugby league, feel free to reach out. Thank you.